Hey guys, it's Miss Delcambre. Today, which will be Friday, we're going to be going over solving percent problems, which is 9.3. You'll need your journal, pencil, and then those additional notes on 9.3. They're titled what number and what percent. So we're going to be adding those to our journal. So let's get going. So we're going to start off with our title. Sorry, my pen just kind of wigged out on me for a minute. All right, so we're at 9.3, solving percent problems. Okay, so the original notes were 3 pages, and I'm fixing to bring them down to show you. So it was originally 3 pages worth of notes, and it goes into detail on 3 things on this one of how to solve it this way, how to solve it if you're given you're missing a part, and then this way if you're missing a whole. Okay, so it's 3 pages worth of notes. However, I'm going to condense it to 1 page of notes with one foolproof way to solve each and every one of those types of problems. So it's very simple. You're going to set it up like a proportion, like 2 equivalent ratios. So draw your line equals a line. Okay? So when you start it off like that, having a proportion, an equivalent ratio. So you're comparing a part on this side. You're comparing a part of something to its whole. So we're going to put part and whole. And we're comparing them to a percent. So your top number is the percent. And we know percents are always out of 100. So 100 is going to always be your given number. Okay, now in some cases, they don't tell you what the part and whole are, but they give you little clue words. And here are the clue words. Is your part, and of is your whole. So those are some clue words. If you're reading a word problem and it said 13 is 40% of what number, you will know where to put your numbers. Or what percent is 12 of 36. So there you go. All right, so we're going to do some examples here. So the first example that we're going to do is 38% of 50. 38% of 50 is what? Okay, now we're going to set it up with our equivalent ratio or proportion. So automatically we know 100 goes here. Okay, and now we're filling in our numbers that we have. So 38% is going to go above this 100 because that's where the percent goes. So we're going to put 38 right here. Of 50, so 50 is my whole. So it's going to go down here. And then we've got to figure out what this is. So the missing part is part. So we're going to put an X right there. Okay? Now, remember yesterday when we were talking about this, how can I go from 50 to 100? Now I have a nice little denominator there. So I can go from 50 to 100 by multiplying by 2. Or I can go from 100 to 50 by dividing by 2. So if I divide by 2 there, I can divide by 2 here. And if I split 38 in half, that would give me 19. So X would equal 19. Again, let me just show you my math. 38, split it in 2. 2 can go into 3 one time. Gives you 2. 1 left over, bring down my 8. 2 can go into 18. 9 times. Gives me 18 exactly with 0 as a remainder. So my answer here would be 19. I'm going to show you one more way you can do this using the same thing without dividing, with that other little method that we talked about of cross multiply and divide. Yes, that method still will apply. So here's another way we can do it. still set it up as an equivalent ratio. So we have our percent, which we know is 38. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab a different color just to show you. So I have 38, 100 will always be there. And then I have x over 50. Okay. So how can I figure out what this x is, this missing number? I can always, foolproof method is cross multiply and divide. So cross multiply, 100 times x gives me 100x is equal to, well, 50 times 38. I'm going to come over here, 38 times 50, drop a 0, 5 times 8 is 40, drop a 0, carry a 4, 15, and 19. So it's 1,900. Now we need to isolate the x, get it by itself, so we're going to divide each side by 100. So if I do to one side, I must do to the other. Okay, that cancels out, leaving me with x is equal to, well, look, the nice zeros line up neatly, and I'm left with 19. So I'm left with the same answer as I am up here. Here, I wanted to try to get the denominator to 100. Here, I cross multiplied and divided and was able to get the same answer. So 2 ways to solve the same exact problem, getting the same exact answer. Okay, so my second one that I'm going to do, number 2, is what's 27% of 300. 27% of 300. Move this over. So again, I'm going to set it up as a proportion. 2 equivalent fractions. Boom, 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 blank. All right, one of those denominators on the right side is always going to be 100. I like to stick with the 100 on the right side, just keeping it as a habit. Okay, 27%, well, that's the percent. It goes over 100, so I'm going to put 27. And then of 300, 300 is my whole. So I'm going to put 300 here. And then I don't know what this is going to be, so I'm giving it the variable x. Okay, now, how can I go from 100 to 300? Okay, well, I could take 100 and times it by 3 to get 300. And if I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. So I'm going to take 27, times it by 3, and I get 81. Just to do my math real quick over here, 27, 3 times 7 is 21, carry 2, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 gives me 8. So check 81. So my missing number here would be 81. 81 over 300 reduces to 27 over 100, which is 27% of 300. Okay, now I'm going to do the cross multiply and divide method and see if it still will come up as 81. So again, I'm starting out, setting up my proportion. I'm going to come up here. I've got 100, always goes in the bottom. 27 goes at the top because 27% of 300 goes right here, and x goes above 300. So I'm going to cross multiply. All right. So 100 times x gives me 100x. I always do that first because I like x on the left side. You'll see most of the time when you start writing equations, your variables on the left side and the right side is your number. Is equal to 300 times 27. Well, 3 times 27 gives me 81, and I need 2 zeros behind it. Okay, then I need to get the x by itself, so I'm going to divide each side by 100. This cancels out, leaving me with x is equal to, and those zeros lined up nice and neatly to give me 81. So x is equal to 81. Do you see? Same result, just a different method of doing it. Keynote, if you can't multiply or divide to try to get to your number, this cross, multiply, and divide is always a foolproof method. It's always a foolproof method. Okay, and we're going to do one last question down here as an example. We're going to do 6, so this is going to be question number 3. 6 is 30% of what? Okay, 6 is 30% of what? So again, I set it up as 2 blank equivalent fractions. That 100 goes at the bottom automatically. Then I start looking, okay, 6 is, well, that's part. So 6 is going to go at the top there. 30%, well, that's going to go over 100. Now I've got to figure out what this bottom number is. So I'm going to put an X right there. Now let's look. So I'm going to come over here and I can look at 30 and 6. So I can say, well, 6 times 5 gives me 30. Well, if I do that backwards and go 30 divided by 5 gives me 6, I can divide 100 by 5. And 100 divided by 5 gives me 20. So my answer there will be 20. Okay, let's do the other method of cross, multiply, and divide, see if we still get the same answer. Again, I'm setting it up the exact same way. So that would be 100 at the bottom right, and then 30 is going to go above it because 30 is your percent. Okay, 6 is your part, so it's going to go up here. And do you see how is right next to it? So bam, you knew where it was going to go. And this is going to be an X. So I'm going to cross multiply. And 30 times X gives me 30X, which is equal to 6 times 100, which is 600. Now I'm going to divide each side by 30. Okay. I'm going to cross this out, leaving me with X is equal to, well, I can cross out a 0. And then I can say, well, 3 can go into 60 20 times. So X is equal to 20. Same result, 2 different ways to do it. Okay. Now, we talked about those pages, the what number and the what percent. What number and what percent. So I want you to get those out. I'm going to pause the video real quick. Okay, so I went ahead and glued my stuff in, and I'm going to first start with what number. We're going to do 2 on each page, and then on Monday we're going to come back and do the rest. So again, I want us to set up our proportion, how we do it up here at the top, just so we can remember. Okay, have 100 at the bottom right, and then we put our percent, and then our part, and our whole, which is and of. Okay, so we have plenty of workspace over here. So our first question is 10% of what number is 8? So look, there's 10%, so that's our percent right there. So we know what that piece is going to be. Of what number? Well, this is our question mark, so I don't know what that is 8. So do you see where it is? That is our part. So we know our part, our percent, and we know 100, so we're missing our whole. So let's go ahead and set up our ratio. So we put 100 in the bottom right. We know what our percent is, so that's 10. It's going to go right here. Of what number? Well, of was our whole, so I'm going to put an X right there, is 8. So I'm going to put 8 right here. Okay. Now, we can do this two ways. So let's first do, well, 8 can't be multiplied into 10, so let's cross multiply and see if, and divide and see if we can get it. So if I cross multiply, 10 times x gives me 10x is equal to 8 times 100, which is 800. So then we would need to divide each side with a number with a variable, so it's 10. So divide by 10, so that cancels it out, leaving me with x is equal to, well, 10 divided by 80, I can cross out that zeros. 10 divided by 800 gives me 80. So my answer would be 80. Okay, there's one more way you could look at it. If you set it up just like this, so I'm going to draw a line right down the middle to show that there's a second way you could solve this. And if you were like, oh, well, Miss Delcambre, I didn't like that way. But I'm going to set up everything like it is. And 10 over 100 reduces to 1 over 10. You can simplify this, guys. Simplify. And then go, oh, look. 1 times 8 gives me 8. And 10 times 8 gives me 80. So x equals 80. Same result, different way to do it. Okay, now again, not every question will be like that, but bam, that question, there were two ways you could solve that. All right, let's look at our next one. We have 4% of what number is 5. So we know we have our percent, so I can start it off with 100 at the bottom. 4 is going to go on top of that because that's your percent. What number is 5? Okay, is goes at the top, so I'm going to put 5 right there. And I don't know what number, so I'm going to put an X right there. Okay. Now 4 can't turn into a 5 and 5 can't turn into a 4. So I'm going to cross multiply. And I'm left with 4x is equal to 500. So then I'm going to divide each side by 4 to get the variable by itself, to get x back by itself. And x is going to equal, well, 4 can go into 5 one time with 1 remaining. Bring it down, then you have 10. 4 can go into 10 two times. So 4 times 2 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. Bring down my last 0, and I have 20. Well, 4 times 5 gives me 20. So x is going to equal 125. Okay? If I look closely, bing, 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 I could have reduced that fraction. So I could have reduced, and let's see if I reduced it and was able to get the same answer. So again, I'm setting it up. I'm going to set it exactly the way I have it over here. So 5 over x, and then I'm going to simplify this. So I know 4 can go into 125 times. And then that would be 1 over 25. Well, 1 times 5 gives me 5. Well, if I have 5 times 25, that gives me 125. Because if I have 5 quarters, I have $1.25. So I showed you both ways to do this. But this way, I just simplified the fraction. I simplified this percent to a nice fraction and was able to get it to there. Okay? Now let's go to the next two on the what percent page. So we're going to turn it over. And I have the what percent. Okay? Now again, I'm going to just set it up here so I know. Set my equivalent ratio is 100. A percent always goes over 100. And this is my is over of or part and your whole. Okay? I just rearranged it. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? So 25 is what percent of 50? Okay. So in this question, we have what our is, we have what our part is. So this is your part of 50. This is what your whole is. We don't know what the percent is. Okay, because it says what percent. So we have 2 pieces of information plus our given 100. So we're able to fill it out. So we have our given 100, 25 is your part, so it's going to go up here. 50 is your whole. I don't know what my percent is, so I'm going to put an X. Okay. Well, looky there. 50 times 2 gives me 100. So if I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. So times it by 2. So 25 times 2 gives me 50. So X is equal to 50%. So my answer is 50%. Okay? If you wanted to do it the other way and do cross multiply and divide, it will work. Come over here. I'm setting the whole thing up. 25 over 50 is what over 100? So again, I cross multiply. So 50 times x gives me 50x is equal to 2500. All right, then we divide each side by 50. That cancels out, so leaving me with x is equal to, okay, and those zeros cross out. 5 can go into 25 5 times. 5 can go into 0 times. And because we're talking about percent, we're putting a percent right behind it. So 50%. So setting it up as these equivalent ratios, like a blank equivalent ratio or proportion, you will be able to solve it 100% of the time. Okay? Now the next one that we're going to do. Okay, 16 is, okay, do you see that is? So we know that that is our part. Well, what percent? I don't know. Of 20. Well, this is your whole. Well, we know that 100 goes right down here. Okay, your part goes up at the top left. So 16 is going to go at the top left. Up 200. It's going to go at the bottom left. What percent? Oh, don't know what that is. Don't have a number for it, so I'm going to give it as an X. Okay? Now if I look closely and I'm like, well, I can take 2 and multiply it by 100 to give me 200. Or I can do the inverse operation, say 200 divided by 2 gives me 100. So then 16 divided by 2, that's a math fact, gives me 8. So X would equal 8. And we're missing our percent, so it would be 8%. 8%. Okay? Now, if you went ahead and go, well, Miss Delcambre, I could simplify that even further. Okay, like cross multiply and divide. You really don't need to cross multiply and divide. I want to show you if you've reduced. So what was I talking about? 16 over 200. Got my blue. Over 200. I reduced that to 100 as 8 over 100. Okay, so still 8 is going to equal 8 is still going to be your percent. So let's just do cross multiply. Sorry. So I'm going to multiply across, and I get 200x is equal to 16,000 or 1,600. Divide by 200 on each side. So x, this cancels out, is equal to, cancel those out, 2 can go into 16 8 times, so it will still be 8%. 8%. So the one piece when we are working on these, finding percent numbers, finding missing numbers, parts and holes and parts and all that other fun stuff, is if you remember to set it up, pull this up, in our handy dandy little proportion. You set it up like this, it will work every single time. It will work every single time there. All right, so that does it for me today for Friday, and I will see y'all later. Have a good weekend. Bye.